Listen up, Friar Faithful. 97.3 The Fans Padres Roundtable is on the air.
Unbelievable!
It's time to discuss everything going on with the Padres. The 97.3 The Fan crew is here for the most in-depth discussion on the Friars in our weekly Padres Roundtable, delivered by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. And now, here's your host, Ben Higgins.
Got to say, the mood is pretty good right now for San Diego Padres fans. Welcome in to our Roundtable, Padres Roundtable, commercial-free. And we got the most fearsome fivesome this side of the Padres bullpen with you today. Starting on my far left with Matt Scraby, Paul Reindl sitting next to him, Braden Suprenant in the middle today.
What's up?
And Chris Ello right to my left. Hello, Chris.
Just want to make sure Braden's okay after the 12-hour turnaround.
It's quick
from last night. He
12-hour
signed off his post-game show. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to get here in time.
Yeah, got to break down.
Right?
Got to break down tape too. I mean,
yeah, I know you do.
Nonstop. Get ready for USD season.
As speculated, last week's roundtable was somewhat incomplete in its analysis of the trade deadline when we left at 11 a.m. and AJ Preller still had quite a few moves to make. We talked a lot about the Mason Miller deal, and then a bunch of other moves came down, resulting in a fairly, I think we can all agree, complete San Diego Padres roster. Lineup, top to bottom, bullpen, even the starting rotation with Michael King now set to return on Saturday. Looking pretty good for the Padres going so forward so far. So I'll start the questioning today with Matt Scraby at the end. How does the trade deadline change, if at all, your expectations now for the rest of this Padres season?
It did change because they got so much better that now they've set the bar even higher. And with what they've been doing since the trade deadline and what they look like, and Ryan O'Hearn hitting a game-tying home run last night, like, I expect them to go deep in the playoffs now. That's what the moves were made for. And AJ Preller did it without abandon. So that's what I expect from them.
The playoffs can be a bit of a crapshoot, a lot of a crapshoot in baseball. However, it does feel like if there was ever a World Series or bust sort of mentality for the San Diego Padres, Paul, this is it. Is it ever fair to even say World Series or bust expectations?
Yeah, 100% it's fair. You move the goalposts sometimes. Sometimes you move them forward. Sometimes you move them back. I don't like moving them back, but I do like moving them forward because that means, like, look, things have changed since spring training. Things have changed since last Wednesday, like what Matt was just saying. Like, these moves were made with some thought of, like, future years, like next year, like, hey, left field's good. Like, I like that. We have a catcher now for next year. That's great. But the moves were made to go all in for this year, and you've gotten close now. You've knocked on the door a couple of times. I just can't really see too many scenarios. Like, heading into the year, it was make the playoffs, get into the dance, see what happens. Anything can happen in the playoffs. Now, I can't see any scenario in which the Padres, like, lose in the wild card or the divisional or even the NLCS, and we go, it's still a pretty fun, pretty good season, successful season. Like, their sights are set on the World Series, and I think anything less than that, we walk away at the end of the year going feeling disappointed.
What do you think, Braden? What is a fair level of expectations now, given not only how good the Padres roster looks, but remember, there's competition out there in the National League as well that looks pretty good also.
In terms of expectations, and you mentioned, like, how much of a crapshoot it is to, like, make it through the playoffs. To me, the only thing that would be disappointing about this season would be losing in the divisional series or doing worse than that. I think would be a disappointing season. I think if they make the NLCS, again, the way things play out in baseball, even though I think they have a really good chance of making the World Series, I think they have a loaded lineup now to potentially win a World Series. As you mentioned, Ben, with how much of a crapshoot baseball is, there's some things that might not go your way in some of those series. So if they made the NLCS and lost in Game 7, I don't think people would be, like, furious with AJ Preller and the San Diego Padres. So from that perspective, I think that's the expectations. In terms of, has it changed for me? I thought they could compete for a division title down the stretch. I think you asked that question a couple of roundtables ago, and I think I said, maybe they'll finish 2 or 3 games out. Now, with the lineup they have and the team that they have, I think they got a really good chance at winning the National League West, but we'll see what happens in the 6 games against LA.
I don't know. Chris, you talked about your car a couple of weeks ago, that you don't spend money on anything, but you splurged a little bit because you wanted a nice car and you drive a nice, a Mercedes. That's important to you. The Padres have spent now, whether it be with prospects or actual money, on the finest, that they think baseball can buy. If you don't get that, if you just get a nice, reliable, $35,000 car and you spent $120,000 thinking you were getting a top of the line sports car, you're not going to be happy. They're now looking for a top of the line result based on what they've put into this season, both payroll wise and prospect wise.
I think it's funny. My expectations, I haven't even thought about them. All I've done is really miss all the prospects they traded away, Ben. I don't know how they could do that.
Share a moment of silence for Leo DeVries before every show.
Who?
Well, look, does anybody even know the name of the prospects they sent to the Orioles as the ball was flying over the fence last night? They may have to pay the bill down the road, but you're talking about it. Everyone's excited, right? And they should be. The team looks great. My expectations are a little different, because I don't think you can even put expectations on the playoffs. That is what a crapshoot it all is. You could lose the first 2 games and be done before you hardly even get started. So my expectations have now changed, where I want to win the division. It's time to topple the Dodgers in the regular season. They have won this thing, 10 out of 11 years? And the Giants got the other one. Let's beat them. Let's win this thing, a series here, the 6 games coming up, and let's go in as let's try our luck with a bye instead of let them play the first 2 game thing and see what happens. So that's kind of where my expectations have gone.
All right, well, let's go there, because I do think that is the goal now. It's almost the stated goal of the Padres. You want to win the division, see if you can get one of those top 2 seeds. They're currently 2 games behind the Dodgers in the NL West. Now that the trade deadline is passed and the rosters are pretty much fixed for the rest of the year, how do you think those 2 teams compare roster to roster, offense to offense, starters to starters, bullpen to bullpen, defense to defense, manager to manager? However you want to break it down, Braden, the Padres versus the Dodgers. Who has the edge now going forward based on how the teams are currently constructed?
Based on how they're currently constructed, and with maybe some pitchers coming back, I guess, for LA, but you don't even know what they're going to be like with guys like Blake Snell. I think the Padres stack up better than LA. I mean, I think it's hard to compare their top 3, but their top 3 are not, like, Mookie Betts is not having a great season. Obviously he's dealing with a lot of stuff too. And we don't ever want to see that for any particular player, but he's not playing well at the top of the order. I think a lot of the bottom half of the Dodgers order is not very good. I mean, the Padres got rid of their Michael Conforto spot in the order. They got rid of the player that's hitting under 200. The Dodgers haven't necessarily done that. I think the bullpen is better for San Diego. If you want to talk about pitching depth, I know that the Dodgers are a little beat up, might be getting some guys back. Their starting rotation might be better than the Padres starting rotation, maybe. But I think overall, if you look at it, it's very comparable, if not an edge to the Padres in almost every single outlet.
Paul, we talked about it this morning. I gave the Dodgers the check mark for starting pitching. Health is certainly going to be a big factor, but they got good starters. I gave the Padres a big check for the bullpen. The Padres have an elite bullpen that can compare with anybody's in baseball. I gave the Dodgers a light check mark on offense, even with some of the flaws that Braden brought up. Teoscar Hernandez can still be dangerous. Max Muncy's hot again, and he's
I think
back.
their ceilings top to bottom are a little bit higher.
It's closer than it used to be. I'll even be generous. But I think everywhere else, defense, give it to the Padres. Manager, I give it to the Padres. I know Dave Roberts is wearing a World Series ring, but we've seen a bunch of bad managerial. I like, Paulie, where the Padres stand in comparison to the Dodgers the rest of the way.
Yeah, I was going to ask for clarification. Are you talking about the next 50 games
Yeah.
or like head to head in a divisional or
I'm talking about just the rest of the way. Just right now where
because that changes things because you manage your starting rotation, your bullpen a little bit differently, obviously in the playoffs. In a playoff matchup, I think the Padres rotation all of a sudden matches up a little bit better with the Dodgers over the course of the next month and a half. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. On the pitching side, yeah, I think I take our bullpen. I'll probably concede the lineup just like you. I think it's a lot closer than it was certainly a week ago. I mean, when you're looking at this Padres lineup, that 6, 7, 8, 9 spot in your order was pretty tough to watch at times. And now when you're throwing like Ramon Laureano or even a Xander Bogaerts, Jake Cronenworth, Gavin Sheets off the bench, man, that changes things. And having like a guy like Freddie Fermin who can go 3 for 4 in the catcher spot, like it's just changed so much. And adding a couple of pieces, like I don't know that I won't speak for you guys. Like, were you surprised at how much adding just a couple of pieces lengthened the lineup for the Padres? Because it's like
that was the idea, but I mean it's worked
to see it actually
better than
play
I could have
out.
even possibly
Yes,
imagined so far.
It's been shocking to see how it played out. So I'm really encouraged with the moves that they made. I really can't wait for those 6 games and 9 days or whatever we've got coming up later this month. But just in general, the next 47, I think that's 47 games remaining. It's going to be intense, man, every single night.
Commercial free, 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable, presented by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. It really is pizza royalty. And Chris, we saw home runs from Ramon Laureano and Ryan O'Hearn. I still think that's the lineup edge that the Dodgers have remains power-wise. One of the most prolific home run hitting teams in baseball. That can always be a big edge, especially in the postseason. Padres haven't caught up there. They've narrowed a gigantic gap a little bit, but that's why I keep giving the Dodgers the edge there. How do you see the two rosters comparing the rest of the way?
Yeah, the power surge is really a huge gap, but we got closer. Padres are still second to last in baseball. Dodgers are either first or second with the Yankees. Dodgers have hit 25 3-run homers this year. The Padres have hit 7. Those are game-changing swings. However, the Padres win on the edges. That is my favorite part of this team. I know that the focus is on your lineup and your ERA. The edges is where the Padres are better than the Dodgers. They have to perform, though. They have to take advantage of that advantage they have. The Dodgers still throw the ball into right field, trying to turn a double play like they did yesterday. The base running, I think the Padres can win there. And you gave a big check to the bullpen, which I think we should. But let's not forget that when the Dodgers won last year in the series, their bullpen won it for them. So, they're still got to go out and prove it.
I acknowledge that gap could be narrowed with guys like Blake Trinan, Rusdar Gratterall coming back. If Tanner Scott gets healthy again, Kirby Yates comes off the injured list, they can narrow that gap as the season goes on, depending on their health level. Matt, how do you think the Padres and Dodgers compare roster-wise?
I echo everything that everybody said. The one thing I think that stands out to me was Chris talked about this the first time the Padres played the Dodgers up at Dodger Stadium, and their lineup with Tommy Edman hitting 8th or 9th, we pointed that out as the Padres just can't compete with that with their current lineup. Now they can compete with that with the guys that they have. And I also think Padres have, knock on wood, wherever it is, health on their side. And that's the Dodgers have been struggling with injuries all season long, and maybe they'll get these guys back. But Padres seem like, I don't even want to say it, but they just seem like they're clicking right now.
I always worry about getting too overly focused on the Dodgers. They are good. They're spending a ton of money, but there are other really good teams, especially in the National League, to contend with. Who do you think is the biggest threat now outside of the Dodgers to keep the Padres from going where they want to go going forward? Chris?
Philadelphia.
Phillies?
Yeah, I don't think it's even close. I think the Mets got a little bit better because they picked up Helsley and Rogers for their 7th and 8th inning. But the starters on the Mets, I don't think match up. The Cubs, I don't think have any pitching at all. And I felt it all year, especially the injury to Steele really hurt them. Imanaga has come back. The Cubs can't get there with the kind of pitching they have, I don't think. So Philadelphia is the one. And they had one Achilles heel. And they were able to get Duran to pitch the ninth inning. I don't see any other Achilles heels with the Phillies.
Does anyone have a vote for someone other than the Phillies? Matt?
I'll go out on a limb because number one would be Phillies, but I think the Reds are super dangerous, and I've said this a couple times. They have good pitching, and they have an offense that can put up a ton of runs in a hurry. Andrew Abbott yesterday went, I think, 6 or 7 innings of shutout ball, and then boom, their bullpen comes in and gives up the game. But for the most part, they're set up for that magical postseason run as long as they get in the playoffs.
You're going to put Emilio Pagan up against Suarez and
He's been
Tyson
pretty
Miller?
good this year.
You know
I'm
what?
not saying that their roster's better.
I'll defend Matt in a sense, and I'll say the Reds are dangerous, but maybe to like the Mets or another team that's kind of struggling right now.
I can buy that.
Rather than the Padres. I think the Padres are looking forward and up toward the Dodgers rather than, seeing who's coming back in the rearview mirror. And I think that's a great place to be. Braden?
I was down on Milwaukee, but I don't know what kind of voodoo magic or make people stay in haunted hotels that they do, but I don't know how they're good, and I don't know how they continue to win.
They're 3 games ahead of the whole league.
They're better than everybody.
I know.
And it doesn't make any sense. And the fact that I don't know why they're so good is a little bit of a concern to me, because it just feels like Milwaukee. Like, does anybody feel afraid when you draw the Brewers in the playoffs? Just like historically what they've done in the last 10 or 15 years, they're always there, and then they always do something bad.
It's like drawing the Twins in the playoffs.
Right, exactly.
They're going to be there, but they're going to be gone real quickly.
And maybe it's like their division's not very good, but like they continue to win, and I don't know why, and I don't know how. And they obviously have decent pitching. You look at their lineup; they have some good players, but they don't have anybody that really jumps out to you. But they concern me a little bit because I feel like I've underestimated them the entire season. Where we're focused on the Phillies, but like Milwaukee for some reason has a magical year. We're not paying attention to that.
I think the Brewers are concerning because we don't understand.
Yes, I don't get it.
The more good players they get rid of, the better they become. I mean, imagine how good they'll be next year after shedding more salary, maybe trading away a few more pitchers. They're going to be unbeatable. They're going to win 115 games after they get rid of everybody. But, yeah, I don't look at that lineup and go, that's the team I'm scared of in the playoffs, Paul, but they've been playing by far the best baseball of anyone in both leagues.
Yeah, you got to respect them for sure. I'm right there with you. Like, I don't know, until you get it done in October, I guess it's just, I don't view you as so much of a threat. I'm with Chris. My answer, we talked about a little bit this morning. I think it's the Phillies. They are such a complete team. I think they're very comparable to the Padres now, especially post trade deadline. I see a lot of similarities between the two teams, but that's the team that scares me. And I was just waiting to see if anybody was going to pull the old, anybody outside of the Dodgers who can beat us? We're the only team that can beat us. Like, I was waiting for that philosophical answer. The Padres are the only team standing in the Padres.
Waiting for
way.
a philosophical answer from this group.
Yeah. Luckily, I didn't have to wait too long. It didn't come, but no, I think it's the Phillies for sure.
All right, it's our 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable, presented commercial free by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. It really is pizza royalty. I like to address the element of the fan base out there. We call them the Doomers, and they certainly exist, looking for what is going to go wrong next. Because, in 57 years of franchise history, the wrongs have outweighed the rights for Padres fans. So let me ask you guys, and put on your glasses half empty perspective. If something does go wrong, what do you worry most about going wrong, Chris, for the Padres the rest of the season? What's the biggest concern remaining internally for the San Diego Padres? Other than playoff randomness, just like actual, a concern that you'd have about this team.
I think the offense, from a Doomer perspective, the offense is overperforming right now. I hope they continue it. I kind of think they will, but bottom 3 in the order, OPS since the trade deadline is 300 points higher than it was before. Doesn't seem sustainable. I know that they're off to all a good start. I'm also concerned about Bogarts batting 5th. He was dropped to 6th yesterday. I think I'd keep him down there. Despite a great turnaround season, he's still hitting 152 with runners in scoring position. I cannot live with that. And I think we should all maybe have a little chat about the new Fernando Tatis Jr. and whether that is an improved Fernando Tatis Jr.
It's a question coming up.
Okay, so we'll save that then. But that's another, he hasn't been the dominant offensive player that he had been. So the offense going back to the other offense is my only doomer concern.
Matt Scraby, you're always good at coming up with concerns. So I'm sure you've got at least one.
I had one that immediately popped in mind, and it would be the bullpen. Even though they're the super bullpen, the Padres rely on the bullpen a lot. And if the bullpen is not the bullpen that we're used to seeing, then they're going to lose that game. And it seems like Mike Schill is content with letting his starters go 4 or 5 and then turning it over to the bullpen. And those guys, for the most part, get the job done. But every once in a while, they don't get the job done. We saw Robert Suarez give up a game-tying home run in the 9th last week. The bullpen scares me a little bit because they put so much pressure on them.
He says he's not content,
I was gonna say,
but then his actions state otherwise. He's like the guy who always says, "I'll start my diet tomorrow." I know I need my starting pitchers to go deeper in the game, but that bullpen looks so delicious. I just can't resist opening up the fridge
I'm
in
going
the 4th inning and going to Jason Adams.
I'm going to tell the director on the Padres telling us, stop showing Mike Schilt in the top of the 5th inning. As soon as we see him, he then appears on the field and out goes the starting pitcher.
But then JP Sears goes 5 innings, no questions asked. It's so confusing.
Well, that's because he was behind by so many runs, and
He's got to eat it.
And you know what? The starting pitching is a bit of a victim of how good the Padres play because they're in so many games. When it becomes high leverage and it's a 1-run game one way or the other, and it's the 5th inning and you got runners on base. Yeah, I would want a fresh arm who can strike someone out, and they have so many options to do that. Braden?
My concern is the starting pitching. I think, and hopefully Dylan Cease can replicate what he has done. We've seen the spurts. Nick Pivetta is having the best year he has ever had, at least statistically, which is great for the Padres, and hopefully continues that. But there's still question marks with Michael King coming back. I think he's going to be fine, but it's still a little bit of a concern. Yu Darvish, I think, has reinvented himself as finding ways to get guys out. But again, he's still coming back from injury. I thought Nestor Cortez did a good job settling in yesterday after giving up 2 runs, but you put a lot of eggs in the Nestor Cortez basket down the stretch. And JP Sears did not impress me at all. I will say, a lot of his numbers are inflated in ballparks that are places where the ball carries as a fly ball pitcher, which was what the case was in Sacramento. Arizona, another hitter-friendly ballpark. So I will understand all the excuses that were potentially made for JP Sears. But I look at the starting rotation with even Randy Vasquez, and to me, like, down the stretch, even though you're not going to need him as much in the playoffs, you traded away a lot of depth at the deadline to acquire good pieces for this team. So the lack of starting pitching depth is a little bit of a concern if I had to pick one.
Paulie, where's the potential trap door? The ground falling out from beneath the Padres' feet.
I probably lean with Chris there. I know we're going to get to Fernando here in a minute. Something just seems a little bit off still, but he's still he's able to make an impact on every game. Even when he could go over and still make an impact, a positive impact on the game. So that's a little bit of a concern for me. I think right now it's mostly just Michael King. I think Saturday is going to answer hopefully a lot of questions, and it's really going to be him moving forward, because when I start thinking about any potential playoff rotations or whatever, it's always focused around Michael King, Nick Pivetta, Yu Darvish, and then after that it's Dylan Cease, play the hot hand. I'm not expecting JP Sears or even Nestor Cortez really to get many, if any, starts in the playoffs. I think you could be looking at bullpen games like we saw the Dodgers use so well in the postseason last year. But Michael King is such a huge key part of that rotation, not just for the playoffs. It's definitely for the next, 47 games coming down the stretch. I know he's not coming off a structural arm injury, and that's a good thing, but he's still been gone for 2+ months, 3 months now almost. That's my only concern right now. My biggest concern.
I tend to kind of think like Braden that starting pitching is maybe the weak spot. It's more of a regular season. If you want to catch the Dodgers, win the division, and maybe get a bye, you got to win a lot of games going forward, which means you need to win your fourth and fifth starter games pretty often down the stretch. And I don't know that the Padres have the starting pitching depth to go on that kind of run. Now, I think they'll get to the playoffs, and once they get there, it's not as much of a concern. You can go to your bullpen heavily and often with so many days off built into the postseason. If you get 4 great innings out of Yu Darvish, I don't think you're going to see him a third time through the order. I don't think you're going to see many guys a third time through the order. Maybe Pivetta, maybe King. That's about it, because Mike Schultz is going to be really aggressive in the postseason. But to win the division, you need consistent starting pitching. That's the one thing we really haven't seen from the Padres so far this year.
But have they been given a chance? And that's what Scraby's point is. And a rarity here has occurred. Scraby made an excellent point. Look, if the Padres bullpen does at all, fade in September, if it does, then it's going to be on Mike Schultz and his inability to put his diet, or inability to start the diet. Because there's I don't know how many examples of a guy really not being in any kind of major danger at all coming out of a game in the 5th inning. It's happened all year long to almost all these pitchers. So Mike Schultz, let's see. He's going to take the criticism if that happens, and I'm sure he's willing to.
All right, let's turn the attention to Fernando Tatis Jr., as Chris alluded to. A piece by Kevin Acee in the Union Tribune on the new and maybe improved Fernando Tatis Jr., maybe not. But Fernando talking about having to accept what he's been given from opposing pitchers, taking more walks. His walk rate is the highest it's ever been. His on-base percentage is way up, but the slugging percentage, the home runs are down. And Fernando, at least in the media, is saying, I have to be good with that for now, because I'm not the best version of myself if I'm trying to chase pitches and hit the ball out of the ballpark. But Braden, is that the best thing for the San Diego Padres? Is that the best version of Fernando Tatis Jr.? Are you okay with him just accepting, I'm going to get pitched around and I just can't swing at those pitches anymore and just take my walks and try to do something from there?
Yeah, because the alternative to that is him swinging at all those pitches and swinging outside the zone and having that flailing swing at that pitch low and away. And that is what leads to more problems, obviously. They're going to keep doing that to try to avoid, putting the ball into a place where Fernando could do damage with it. And if Fernando takes a walk, that's a win for the San Diego Padres, because he's getting a guy on base that's very scary on the base paths. Now, from the other perspective, too, eventually these guys are going to miss, and he's got to be able to hammer the mistakes when they miss across the plate. And if he's swinging at pitches out of the zone because he wants to go do damage on pitches that he can't do damage with, they're going to continue to throw them. And eventually, if they have to get in a spot where they can't walk him or they can't be careful with him, they might make a mistake. And when that mistake is made, the really good hitters in Major League Baseball make teams pay. And so you have a little bit of a different situation than Fernando's used to. But the version of him being disciplined at the plate and not chasing outside the zone and only swinging at pitches he could do damage with, that I think in the long term is going to make him an even better offensive player than he already is.
Paul, I don't think Fernando's ever going to turn into like Juan Soto in terms of how much he takes pitches. And based on the reaction in San Diego, I'm sure Padres fans don't really want him to turn into Juan Soto. It's not bad to not chase pitches. Showing discipline at the plate is good. And with a lengthened lineup and more guys hitting well behind you, it actually could be good for the Padres just to have Fernando out there on the base paths.
Yeah, he's still an absolute freak on the base paths and a total game changer. I think with the the pitch selection, I'm fine with it, because I remember back in April, even all of us, we were praising Fernando. Man, remember last year he swings at that pitch, that ball that's away and in the dirt, and he wasn't doing that as much, and that showed a positive improvement for me. I don't know what's going on with the power. I really don't. I guess we could it's probably easier to just chalk it up to like, yeah, it's just not getting those pitches to hit. I agree with Braden. Like the alternative is what? We want him to swing at those? Like, I don't want that either. Yeah, I don't see him becoming that Juan Soto. He's only looking up there to walk or anything like that. And as long as he can produce in the field and on the base pass until he starts getting some pitches to hit, like I'm fine with it. I don't have a whole lot to complain about with Fernando Tatis Jr.
You know, Chris, I'm usually of the mind that you can't make major changes in the middle of the season. And, Saris from The Athletic often tells us that, Fernando's not pulling the ball as much. That's how you get power, especially at Petco Park, is you pull the ball in the air. But we've seen Xander Bogaerts make some changes, and he seems to be pulling the ball in the air. I don't know. Is there somewhere in the middle for Fernando Tatis Jr. where you can still not chase the outside pitches, but start attacking those inside ones and pull the ball and hit a few more home runs and find really the best version of himself going forward?
Yeah, I don't think this is the best version of him at all. And I think he has to try to find it. And he's got to make them pay a little bit more for what Braden talked about, the mistakes. He's got to start hitting the ball with more authority. I appreciate his improved eye, but he's being paid like he's Aaron Judge. He's hitting like he's Luis Ariz. So that, I think, factors into this a little bit. He's paid to knock the ball over and against the wall. The difference we talked about already with the Dodgers versus the Padres is the power, the slug, the 3-run homer. Where's Fernando to hit some of those 3-run homers? I think they need him going forward to be a little bit more of a threat. And so I'm taking the walks. I'm taking the fact that they're winning games. But I'll tell you one thing. If they weren't winning a bunch of games right now, I think a lot of people will be looking in Fernando's direction.
Matt, I know a lot of people, online especially, will say Fernando's not the same since he got popped for the PED suspension. He still hits the ball as hard. He still has the same bat speed. He just doesn't hit it in the air as much. He's hitting the ball on the ground. I don't think PEDs help you hit the ball in the air. I could be wrong, but I feel like it might be.
Should we try it? Should we have Ben take some PEDs and see how his golf swing does?
See the launch angle?
Little experiment. Let's see.
Can you ask her questions with a little more authority?
I mean, I'm not sure about that one exactly. That Fernando player, where do you feel like his sweet spot is in terms of what the Padres need?
I've gone back and forth on this all year, but I don't know that he's in the right spot in the order. I don't know that they're setting him up for success, because if he's the first hitter of the game, why not just put him on, try to roll into a double play, something like that. And with the new lineup that they have options to put him maybe third or fourth. I know they will never drop him past fourth, but can you imagine Fernando coming up in the sixth spot? That would be hectic for pitchers. I don't think they'll ever do that, but I don't know that they're setting him up for success. And I think his sweet spot is when he is able, as you guys all said, to hit pitches in the zone, and they're just not throwing them to him right now.
All right. Well, I'm glad you brought up moving Fernando in the order, because I wanted to use the panel for a moment and give Mike Schilt some advice that he does not want to hear at all.
I'm sure he's going to be taking notes right now.
Yeah, he is going to completely ignore this segment that he wasn't listening to anyway.
We could hope that his agent would be paying attention, but apparently he doesn't have an agent.
Let's tinker with the Padres lineup now with all these new pieces. In particular, my question is, where should Ramon Laureano be hitting in the Padres lineup? Because he seems like he's too good to be hitting seventh or sixth, where we've seen him a lot. Now, yesterday he was second when Fernando was given a day off, but I don't know that will hold. I mean, Chris, where do you think? I mean, Laureano has been one of the premier offensive players in baseball this year, and it looks like he's going to continue that, at least so far with the Padres. Where do you bat that guy in your order?
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, you look at his career, man. He's a 750 slug or OPS. This year's OPS is better than Manny Machado's. He's got speed enough. I think he could honestly hit leadoff. I am, just intrigued by the idea of Fernando batting fifth or sixth. We already talked about Bogaerts, as much as he's improved, and there's no question. I can't keep him there hitting 152 with runners in scoring position. So I would be inclined to move Laureano first. I've said so many times that Ariz can't lead off because he stops the line. So I can't change now. I'll put Laureano above him, Ariz, then Manny, then O'Hearn even is fine, or Jackson. Man, Tatis 5th. I'll even drop Bogey to 7. Man, it's a nice, delicious problem to have.
I think the part of the problem here, Braden, and kind of Scraby alluded to it when he said Tatis 6. That seems way too low. But if you want to keep a righty balance and move a righty and Ramon Laureano up, you can't move Manny down. So if you do Manny 2nd and Laureano 4th, that really does kind of either you're going to have a long righty lane or you have to drop Tatis to 6th. And I think, Braden, that Mike Schilt is pretty against dropping Fernando Tatis that low in his order.
Yeah, he probably is. I asking like where Laureano should hit. I mean, Laureano hitting 2nd behind Fernando wouldn't be too bad. I think that'd be kind of fun to watch. I'm not a huge. Some people are. I'm not huge into the righty lefty lane stuff. I know analytically, there's a case for it, and I just don't think it's honestly that big of a deal. And I know a lot of coaches throughout baseball. It's a very hit and miss kind of spot. So, but for me, I still like Fernando batting leadoff. I think that what he brings to the table is dynamic, and him not performing right now doesn't take away from the fact that he is arguably your best athlete on the team. So I like Fernando 1. And watching Laureano hit, I like having a bat 2. A high put the ball in play guy, but he's also got some slug. Manny batting 3. Your cleanup hitter, honestly, Ryan O'Hearn, I think would be a good spot for a cleanup hitter. And then now all of a sudden you're thinking about the guys that are left, and you got Arise, you still have guys like Bogarts and Merrill, and Freddie Fermin, obviously, and you just go down the list. Your 5 through 9 are going to be some guys that can hit, and there's going to be guys down there that can start some rallies, which is great to see. So, if I'd have put Laureano somewhere, I'd probably bet him 2nd. I still like Merrill kind of batting 2nd too. We haven't seen too much of that. They kind of dabbled in it a little bit and got away from it, but Fernando Merrill 1-2, I think, is a great way to start off the game.
Yeah, I don't think you can go righty with Fernando, Laureano, Machado 1, 2, 3.
I don't think he'll do it.
They're probably your best hitters. Which lefty do you pick up there? I mean, Paulie, I'll say it again. I think Luis Arise is a great table setter, but I think you should be setting the table more for the bottom of your order, like in the 6th or 7th spot as you come back around, or even 8th.
Hell of an 8 hitter.
Man, he would be
the
a
other
great
thing you could do.
hitter.
The other thing you could do that some teams do is you stack it 1 through 4, 1 through 4, and then he's your fifth hitter,
guy,
but he's like a second. He's like another leadoff group, and so you bat. Well, your 1 and 5 are your 1s. Your 2 and 6 are your 2s. Your 3 and 7s or 3s, whatever like that, and you go down the list, and the 9 is just whoever your 9's going to be. You stack it twice, so 1, 2, 3, 4.
We all understand, but please forgive him.
Paulie, what do you think here? I mean, a red hot Merrill at 3rd behind Tatis and Laureano ahead of Machado would be good, but maybe it's O'Hearn as your lefty there. I'm just not sure what the best way to do this is.
We're still waiting kind of to see what they do with O'Hearn.
Yeah.
He's
even playing.
The usage has been very odd since we've acquired him, so I'm not sure what was going on there. So I kind of like the book is still out on how they're going to utilize O'Hearn. I mean, I think for me, look, Fernando's my leadoff hitter. I mean, until somebody like proves that they are clearing away a better leadoff type player, it's Fernando. He's so electric. I know he's having a down year, but like the ceiling and the potential that he has to start things off for your lineup, I want him in the number 1 spot. I would probably go him, Merrill, Manny, and then from there, there's definitely some debate. I think I agreed with what Chris said earlier about moving Bogarts down. Like, as good of a year as he's had, those numbers with runners in scoring position are just a little bit jarring. Short sample size, but he did have some success in the 6th hole yesterday. I think that might be a good spot for him. But I like the the Tatis Merrill combo 1 and 2. I would drop Luis Arise down a little bit. I think I would agree with you.
The thing is with like moving these guys down, it's not a bad thing. That's like a really good thing. If you look at teams that win the World Series, go look at their lineup. Who's hitting 7, 8, 9. Jake Cronenworth's hitting 8 or 9 on most teams that have won a World Series in the last handful of years. Xander Bogaerts at this point in his career is like a 7, 8, 9 hitter on a World Series caliber team. You got Cronenworth and Bogaerts 7 and 8. you got a pretty good lineup out there doing some serious damage.
I think it's also important to remember that opposing teams aren't nibbling and pitching Fernando off the plate because they think he's such an easy out and he's not dangerous. They're not throwing him pitches because they're still terrified of him. However, whatever his numbers are, he still terrifies opposing teams.
Did anyone else find it interesting? We didn't find this interesting because O'Hearn hit a home run. But you had a lefty on the mound. You had Fernando on the bench. And you didn't pinch hit there and use Fernando.
Did you
lead off the
ninth inning? What happened there?
Mike Schultz's explanation was pretty clear.
Okay.
Fernando was off. He wasn't even dressed.
Okay.
He didn't even have his uniform on.
Okay.
I mean, I guess in an emergency, he could have gone back to the clubhouse and put it on. But he told Fernando, don't even prepare for the game.
Okay.
You don't need to scout. You are not getting
Jesse
in
said
under
it on
any
the broadcast. He said
circumstance.
he was alluding to that. Like, the Padres do have an interesting player on their bench available potentially for a pinch hit spot who's not usually available. And then the camera panned over to Fernando. He's in a t-shirt. Like, he was in no way prepared.
He's got a drink with an umbrella in it.
He was just hanging.
He's on vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, it is our 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable. It is presented commercial-free by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. It really is pizza royalty. And after using that breaking the diet, cheating metaphor, I thought for today's seventh inning stretch, keep it a little fun and light. Today's question is, we'll start with Matt Scraby. What is your all-time favorite fast food order? And I want all the details. I want the restaurant, your main dish, your modifications, your side, and your drink.
Oh,
Your
man.
go-to.
Why is he going
fast
first? We're not
food
going to have
order.
time. The rest of us.
Wow. So we're just talking
Fast
chain
food.
fast
Yeah,
food?
chain fast food. McDonald's,
Okay.
In-N-Out, Burger King, Carl's Jr.,
I did not
Wendy's.
expect for this.
I mean, you
but-
got to have something from, even if this is back in the nostalgic days before, getting
Okay,
in a little better
nostalgic
shape. Yeah, it
days.
doesn't have to be today. It's just like, what was in your life? What was your go-to fast food order?
I absolutely loved getting the ultimate cheeseburger with the curly fries and 2 tacos and maybe an egg roll.
And maybe an egg roll on the
Yes.
side.
Yes.
This is Jack in the Box?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Jack in the
All right.
Box. Yeah.
Paulie, what was your go-to fast food order back in the day? Just because we're all now very healthy people, we wouldn't do that.
right.
Now, this is all
Hard
back
for
in
me
the
to
day.
remember.
Hypothetical back in the day.
I would die if I
Yeah.
ate that now.
Yeah.
Well, you clarify back in the day because they didn't have In-N-Out where I grew up back in the day. Otherwise, that would have been my choice. Back in the day, I'd have to go, honestly, it was probably Mickey D's. And even though I don't particularly even like McDonald's that much, like I think there are plenty of better fast food choices than McDonald's, but I think it was the number 7, at least at the time, the 2 cheeseburgers, the plain basic cheeseburgers, no pickles, fries and a drink. It hit for me.
Braden Soprenet, fast food go-to.
I love fast food. I haven't had it. I don't eat it
No,
as
none
much
of us
anymore.
have, of course.
I honestly
don't got a lot of
don't.
us.
But
It's a safe
when
place.
high school, me playing high school football, I could crush a lot of fast food when I was in high school. Since he took McDonald's, I'm gonna go back with. I don't go there anymore. It doesn't satisfy my needs as much as it used to. But Jack in the Box, I'd do an ultimate cheeseburger. I'd get fries and a Oreo shake, and then I'd definitely get 2 tacos, because if you go to Jack in the Box,
99
you have to
cents,
get
yeah,
2
of course.
tacos. You have to get the 2 tacos.
I've never understood the tacos.
It's so
I
good.
love the Jack in the
They're
Box.
so
Me
good.
too.
I
Yeah,
do.
they're not
Yeah.
great.
So the slice of American cheese in there. Are you kidding me? It's
Envelope with
delicious.
wet cat food, and it's delicious.
That's awesome. And then I get because again in high school I could eat a lot of food. Some jalapeno poppers too. I'd throw those
Ooh.
out. That was the good thing
All right.
about the good thing about Jack in the Box. When I was in college, they had the munchie meal, like when it first debuted, and they had loaded nuggets, which they haven't brought back since. And those were amazing as well. But Jack in the Box has a lot of great, just all sorts of just random stuff.
I have no idea where Chris is going to go with this.
Chris?
He's got a long life. He has a lot of choices.
Chris went to the original McDonald's. I think.
I've seen back in the day, Chris could pack it away. For sure.
Here's how much
Oh, I've seen Chris eat. I just don't know what he's going to choose.
I've seen Chris's Jersey Mike's order.
Oh, yeah.
here's
He's got his own pizza. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's right, he does. He does
has
have
his own pizza over here.
here's how much I can eat. on road trips before the DoorDash and the delivery services used to call your own Chinese restaurant and have them bring it. I'd order so much food that they'd always bring 2 plates, 2 sets of silverware, 2 sets of everything. And the guy'd come in and put it all down, and he's like looking around, and I would just, you just assume there's a second person.
You're in the bathroom.
Yeah, there isn't.
That's how I feel when I go to taco shops.
Yeah, that's how much I can eat.
That's what I should have done.
But you mentioned the taco shop. I think that qualifies as fast food, does it not?
It does. I should have done that.
Yeah, I practically lived my life waiting for 3-roll tacos and guacamole at Roberto's.
You live your life.
In college.
It's pretty heavenly, dude.
Right.
For at least 5 years college.
Chris is so old. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm in the same.
It's like
I'm
a
in
go
the
ahead
boat.
joke.
They didn't have 5-roll tacos back in the day.
No, you had only got 3. You only got 3. You had to get 2 orders.
Kind of a modern.
Yeah, right. You had to get 2
deal.
orders. I mean, when we'd start partying on Friday or Saturday night, I started looking at my watch. When is it going to be 2 a.m.?
When is it roll taco time?
Right. So roll tacos, guacamole, sometimes the carne asada burrito. That's it for me.
All right, I've got 2 answers. Every Saturday night in college, every Saturday night. Saturday Night Live, large round table pepperoni pizza every single time. But in high school, I went to Torrey Pines, and there was McDonald's right across the street.
yeah.
So
The fancy one.
I could go
It's no
off
longer
campus once
fancy.
you were a junior. You could go off campus for lunch. And every other day when I went off campus for lunch, same meal every single time. 9 chicken McNuggets, sweet and sour sauce, large fries, and a large high-C orange.
Wow.
Every single time. I know it's kind of a weird one.
How many dipping sauces? Because now they limit you depending on how many.
I'd have
order.
to, so I get 2, and you'd have to use every last drop
Yes.
to get it to like portion it out for 9 McNuggets. Like, don't put too much on the first one, or you're not going to have any sweet and sour sauce left for the last McNugget. So you got to be very, very careful in how you use your fast food sauces. Yeah, now they just give you sauce. You just ask for it, but they didn't used to do that either.
Well, then they're like, "Do you want to pay extra for the sauce?" No, I don't.
I don't want to pay 50
35
cents for the
cents
ranch,
or whatever
dude.
it is for the sauce.
All right, last few
Add
minutes.
in 10 more cents for a bag, and you're out of money.
I know Chris doesn't like to do this, but let's evaluate the trade deadline, not based on what they got, but how the Padres now look in the future, specifically next year. How do you evaluate the trade deadline moves, knowing Laureano should be back, put him into the outfield for next year on a player option, on a team option. JP Sears could be back in your rotation next year, and you've got Mason Miller, obviously, probably moving into your bullpen. Are these moves that were made good for the Padres next year, Matt Scravy?
Yes and no. Mason Miller being your closer for the next 4 years with his contract control is a huge win. But I also think that they have guys departing in free agency, most likely. Dylan Cease, Luis Ariz. I mean, we've gone over the list. So I don't know that they did themselves any real benefit for next year, but AJ will figure it out and he'll get the guys in there. He'll find some contract that no one else will give, Nick Pivetta or something, Gavin Sheets. But I think that they improved it in the way of Mason Miller being your closer for the future, but otherwise they are going all in this year.
Paulie, what do you think about next year now? Just past whatever happens this year. Are the
Yeah.
Padres better off for next year now?
I think they are better off. I do think there's going to be some holes in the starting rotation that absolutely will need to get addressed. We'll deal with that in the offseason, though. Looking at next year's roster compared to this year, you were thinking, who's playing? Same questions that we had really coming into this year. Who's catching? Who's playing left field? We've got those figured out. Oh, my God. Suarez is definitely opting out. We're losing him. Boom, you just replaced him with Mason Miller. So I think in general, I think the Padres are better positioned for next year. You know, you figure out what to do with a Luis Ariz if he moves on, and you figure out the rotation, assuming Dylan Cease does in fact sign with another team. You know, what does Michael King do? He's the one that I just have no idea. Like, I can 100% see him going, I'm going to get paid, and the Padres can't afford him, and he's gone. I can also see a situation in which he wants to stay here, and maybe it's I don't want to say team friendly, because I think those should never happen, team friendly contracts, but you can get creative in how the contract is structured. Michael King's a guy I really don't want to lose. Like, I'm glad they kept Dylan Cease. I was kind of on the train of keep Cease, don't trade him this year. shake his hand at the end of the season, say thank you for your time, good luck in free agency, go get the bag, etc. Michael King's the one where I'm like, God, I wish they could bring. I really hope they can bring him back, but that's such a question mark right now.
Braden, here's what I like. If you don't even bring back a single free agent next year, I think the Padres can put a pretty good darn lineup on the field next year. You've got Laureano, Merrill, and Tatis in the outfield, Machado, Bogarts, Cronenworth, and you play Sheets at first base under control, Fermin behind the plate. You've got a pretty good lineup already next year. Now, will they be able to augment, though? Because after trading so many prospects, where's your capital if you need to go out and trade for another pitcher? You need to trade for another bat. It's becoming pretty thin. In that sense, I'm a little more concerned about going into next year, but I think you're in a better starting position, at least going into next spring training, than you were at this time last week.
I think they made 90% of their offseason moves at the trade deadline. I think they accounted for a lot of the things that they knew that they had to address going into the offseason. And Paul mentioned it. Your outfield is set. Your catching situation is set. Your infield basically is set. If you want to add a first baseman, you can. The bench obviously needs to be redone. You look at the starting rotation, and there's obviously question marks. What Yu Darvish is going to do. He's supposed to be back next year. Nick Pivetta is going to be back next year. You get J.P. Sears is under contract, and you have Joe Musgrove coming back next year in some capacity, obviously. So you have, probably 4 of your guys, and who knows what you do with Randy Vasquez. But you have the opportunity to add a little bit. And as you mentioned, Ben, I agree. They have a pretty solid bullpen still coming back next year, and starting rotation and overall roster. There's not too many glaring holes. In fact, I would say there's probably less glaring holes going into this offseason than there were going into last offseason. I agree with Paul. They got to bring back Michael King is with by any means necessary, and let Dylan Cease walk would probably be my answer on that as well. I did find it interesting today. Kevin Acee put out in his daily newsletter that AJ Preller threw in more prospects to get the Orioles to pay for Ryan O'Hearn and for Ramon Laureano's contract down to league minimum. So the Padres are only paying a couple $100,000 for those guys to finish the season. So they're doing what they need to do to save the money they need to save, to stay underneath the thresholds. A.J. Preller's done a great job doing that. The one thing I'll say about the future of the prospect capital, we have said this now for the last every year for the last 5 years, and the Padres are going to have, unless something catastrophically bad happens, make the playoffs for the 4th time in 6 years. That is sustained success if you're the San Diego Padres. Making the playoffs 4 times out of 6 years for what they were before, and we're trading – how many players have they traded out of the system? That's pretty sustained success. They've proven that they can do it. They've proven that they can reload, and they'll find prospects to trade.
Chris, you usually care the least about mortgaging the future for the present, but maybe they didn't mortgage at least the near future as badly as some people think.
I don't think they did. I think that was the genius of what AJ did at the trade deadline for all the reasons all these guys just said. Just as a quick aside, I've been thinking about going and getting rolled tacos after the show now that we brought it up. A friend of mine, Braden knows him, Ken, he brought this up last night, and I thought it was a fair point, and we haven't talked about it, and unfortunately we won't have time to kick it around too much. But it is possible that in a year or two, baseball is going to go on a lengthy work stoppage. Does anyone think that played into what the Padres did in terms of trying to win now, trying to win next year? Because who knows what's going to even happen after next year because of baseball.
Yeah, I think it's a factor. I don't know that I'd say it was like a sole decision, but I think it's only human for that to be a factor. Yeah. Like Manny Machado getting a year older, is another factor. Like, capitalize on the prime, capitalize on the window now, deal with next year, and then deal with, we're talking, everybody's up in arms because we traded DeVries. I'm like, he wasn't going to be here for at least 2, 3, 4 years. We'll deal with that a little bit further down the road.
Yeah, let's be honest. This is AJ Preller. He was going to go for it anyway. Yes. No matter what the labor situation was in the future. It's a nice little, nugget you can add. And hey, we'll be aggressive because we don't know what the future may hold.
Leo DeVries may never have a league to play in.
He was going to be aggressive no matter what. We should have all seen it coming. We speculated for months on what he was going to do, buy and sell, buy on the margins. This is AJ Preller. It's go big or go home for this general manager. It's one of the great things about him. At some point, will it be his undoing? Probably. Probably there will one day be a piper to be paid, but he's good at pushing that down the road as far as possible. Just keep kicking that can down until he's absolutely, completely out of options. But he still has some, still has Salas in the minor leagues, a couple other things that he could play with if he needs to in the future. All right. Great job, everybody. We'll see what happens this week. Some big games against the Boston Red Sox, and then Giants-Dodgers. So a couple of huge weeks for your San Diego Padres. That's it for our 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable, presented by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. It really is pizza royalty. For Matt Scravey, Paul Reindl, Braden Soprenet, and Chris Ello, I'm Ben Higgins. Have a great rest of your day from all of us here at 97.3 The Fan. So long, everybody.